Hello, and welcome to HaZayin Nezer, the Olive Branch, a podcast about relationships of all kinds and how to improve them.
Episode 4, Prayer. The runtime of this episode is 4 minutes, 50 seconds.
This episode is about prayer, and how prayer brought me and my wife together quickly. About a week after I flew out to meet my wife for the first time in person, I bought and had shipped to her a prayer study my church had recently finished. But this was not my first prayer for my wife. I had been praying for her for more than 10 years before I knew her name. When she received it, we began a nightly practice of talking on the phone, alternating between the two of us who would read a chapter out of the book. The book was a Bible study related to the movie War Room, the battle plan for prayer. And the intense nightly prayers we prayed with and for each other had an enormous impact on our relationship.
Contact and intimacy.
I credit the nightly reading of this book and the prayers it spurred in us with the state of our relationship today. I don't think I would be married to my wife today without it, and without her, I'm not sure I'd still be alive to tell you about it. You see, praying with and for my wife on a nightly basis, with all the things that were going on in my life, gave me strength, and the intimacy of praying for each other drew us together more quickly than would otherwise have been possible from 1,500 miles away. God used the topics in this book to speak to us. Nearly every night we came across something we felt was acutely pertinent to events that were happening in our lives that very day.
Shared priorities.
We used the lists in the back of the book as a pattern for our own prayer lists. We prayed for each other in specific ways that showed our love for each other and the specific things that were important to us in our wishes for each other's good. We prayed for our families and friends. We prayed for our communities, nation, and world. We prayed for those who have not accepted God's love for them, and for those who will reach out to them in love. We prayed for pastors, rabbis, and missionaries. We prayed for our government officials. And we prayed for our future children, because it's never too early to start praying for someone. In addition, we each had a list of things that concerned us, which we prayed over and kept up to date. We also prayed one more thing frequently. We prayed that God would keep us in the center of His will, and that if our marriage was not in His will, if we would end up hurting each other's spiritual walk with Him, if we would end up in a marriage that wouldn't last, that He would drive us apart quickly.
Trust and timing.
From our first face-to-face meeting to our betrothal was 5 months. 5 months from not knowing if I was a real person or a serial killer to being my wife. And my wife is a careful woman. Without this nightly contact and praying intimacy, our relationship would not have developed the trust between us necessary for my wife to accept my offer of marriage as soon as it would come. And because of a death in my immediate family shortly after that opportune moment, neither of us would have felt it was an appropriate time to make that decision, had it not already been made. Any later and we would not be married. And without my wife by my side during those last days, I don't think I would have survived the ordeal. God used prayer to bind me together with my wife, and God used my wife to keep me sane and healthy during and after these traumatic days.
Application.
What does this mean for you? How can you apply this to your life? I want to impress on you the value of prayer. Praying with those you love is a time of intimacy, and it is a time of bringing those you love before the only one in the universe who has the power to protect them and you from the enemy who seeks to destroy us all. This is a powerful act that demonstrates your love in a way that nothing else can.
Answers to prayer.
The Lord of the universe delights to hear our prayers, and He is faithful to answer every prayer in the most appropriate way. If we ask our earthly parents for $20, they may say yes if it is in our best interest to have it, or they may say no if we are asking for the wrong reasons, say to buy something that is bad for us. Or they may tell us to wait until next week, and they may give us a 20 or 2 tens or some other distribution. And if we, fallible earthly creatures, know how to give our children what is best for them, how much more does our Lord, who is perfect? Prayer is a powerful vehicle for safeguarding and demonstrating our love for our loved ones. That does it for this episode of The Olive Branch. Join us next time for a romantic topic. What is romance? HaZayin Nezer is copyright 2018 by Lincoln Sager and is distributed under a Creative Commons non-commercial license. This means that you are free to use this program in creative endeavors so long as you don't charge for your work and appropriate credit is given to Lincoln Sager. If you like this podcast episode, please tell someone about it. HaZayin Nezer is created through the generous support of our backers at Patreon. You can pledge your support for this podcast by visiting patreon.com/over2sd.